Hi everyone, my name is Charlie, and today I think that I'm actually going to be talking about writing again. Please excuse the mark on my face here and here, as the other day at work, my colleague and I were trying to sort something out, and she accidentally hit me in the face with a door. Twice. It's fine. I think it's healing. I'm prone to some brilliant migraines at the moment, which is quite fun. But that's not why we're here. We're here because I was thinking of maybe making another analogy between my driving and my writing. So, let's start out by discussing the fact that currently, unless I'm going to my grandmother's house, which, I've been driving down that road for 25 years as a passenger, the only place that I drive to is work. And a few months back, my manager was having her car MOT'd, and it was finished at 5, so I drove her up from the shop down this country road that I didn't know, and to pick her car up. And whilst we were driving down, I was like, this is really not your best driving. And I was like, I didn't understand it. And then I realised it's because I am constantly driving down the same road, so I'm not actually testing myself in any way. Like, I get into this space in the morning, there's a few bits where I'm kind of like, well, actually, if I do this, I can fix it rather than starting again. So I'm working on the manoeuvres more. But that was the day that when I got home, I ended up denting my car on the drive. Like, I drove in and hit the wall, and my car scraped down its side and has a dent in it that's a bit unfixable. And that annoys me, but it also serves as a reminder that I actually should have been testing myself with my driving more. As in, parallel parking. I haven't parallel parked since September, and I can tell every time I try to do it, I don't know, I seem to get filled with this anxiety, and I don't know whether it comes from my very first driving test, when that is how I failed, but I still can't, I'm not the best at it. And I go back to when I first started driving on my own, and I was driving all over the place. I drove to Barnton, I drove to Edgeley, I came back down a country road and thought, I've documented it in my videos, I honestly thought there was going to be like a Hills Have Eyes situation, and I locked myself in my car, and there were all these bits of driving where I was having to learn myself on my own how to correctly drive. And so I mentioned this because whilst I've thought that I do need to challenge myself more, so sometimes I have gone the country road route back to the main road from here because it's a tight road, so it does test me. And on Wednesday, I had to take my grandmother to the hospital because my mother had double booked herself. And ordinarily, I'm a bit tense about taking my grandmother to the hospital, and it's all a dream's fault from when I was a child, in which I'd learnt to drive and I was driving my grandmother somewhere, crashed a car and killed her. So, I do get a bit of anxiety about that. One of those nightmares that really sticks with you. It became a recurring nightmare for a while there. Anyway, we get to this, we have to drive round Congleton, and I'm like, I have no idea where I'm going here. I'm sorry, I don't know where I'm going. So this is my grandmother, who's about to turn 80, who's driven once in her life and documented it well. It's a family story, giving me directions. I was like, oh yeah, I remember where that is. So we drive, and we're going around Congleton, which is notorious for having absolutely mental drivers on the road. And then we got to the hospital, and there was an ambulance parked over disabled. I was like, well, we're not parking here. And so we went down to the spillover car park. We're not parking here. And I was having to do loads of reversing and stuff, watching cars and everything. And I was like, oh, I feel like a proper driver here. And I drove up back to disabled. Ambulance was still there. She had to get out and walk, which I was a bit, worried about, because sometimes unassisted she is prone to falling over. But apparently being independent worked out really well for her. I also had her little dog in the car, and I don't know whether having an anxious dog who's extremely terrified about where his owner's gone actually made me work out more as a driver. But I went down to the main car park, and there was nowhere to park there, so I had to reverse again and get out of there, and then I went back up and I had to reverse again, and then I came out, I was like, well, I'll go on this next street over here, and then I was like, well, you can't actually see her as she comes out, so I went back, and I found this space in a car park, and then this Mini came behind me. I was like, you're not parking there, I want to go there. And so I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm going down there then, so I drove straight on, and I got into the space, and I was like, that was actually a good test of your driving skills. And then on the way to work this morning, I had a few more unexpected road conditions and driving conditions because I didn't leave at the same time. And honestly, this has been a very long-winded way of saying that we should challenge ourselves more. Now, I'm not saying that when you first learn to drive, you should get onto a motorway immediately and drive all the way to Northumberland and back. But what I am saying is to turn this into some sort of writing analogy. If you aren't challenging yourself and you allow yourself to get somewhat comfortable, then there is every chance that you aren't going to do as well as you're thinking, because getting comfortable soon becomes boring. I found that with our Doris. Our Doris, I can write that character voice with ease. And it's something that I have built up over time. Originally, it didn't come as naturally, and sometimes the character won't speak to me, but it did become comfortable. And one of the reasons that I changed the comedy somewhat in the second book, and I changed my way of storytelling in that book, was one, because I wanted to make people realise that I could actually reach the point of writing an actual novel one day, but also because I wanted this challenge of like putting more serious themes in there, and I wanted the challenge of still being able to do different things with comedy. Like, there's a joke in there that for the payoff you have to wait for 3 pages, but I was extremely proud of that, and I made these changes because challenges are interesting for you as a writer. It means you won't get bored, because if you get bored, then your reader's going to get bored, and if you get comfortable, then you are prone to make mistakes. Car. Dent. I am currently working on a book that I'm keeping secret, once again, documented, should probably stop talking about it, but this is a challenge to me. That is a piece of dog hair. This is a challenge to me because it's a genre I haven't written before, and it's a genre that I have wanted to write for years. And I also find it challenging because the book has turned into something I hadn't expected it to. I created a plan and expected that plan to be everything I stuck to, and it wasn't. And that's not a bad thing. It turned out that I had to write my way into this book, and I found that writing longhand, and when I took that break from writing, I have actually slowed down the pace of my prose. I think this comes from not reading so much young adult fiction as well, and writing so much young adult fiction. I do have to document that. I have to say that until 2014, I was primarily writing young adult fiction and children's books, and also I was very aware that I wanted to create a rather fast, easy experience for my reader. That has changed because I feel like sometimes I want an easy book. Sometimes as a reader, I want an easy book to read that I know I can be done with. But currently I'm at a point where I want to challenge myself, and I want to be reading more authors that I'll probably find it a bit difficult, a bit slower to read, but ultimately that experience is going to help me as a reader, because I do read a bit quickly and I do get a bit bored, and so I'm trying to change that myself. And I found also that sometimes with writing, if you stop something for a certain amount of time, so I want to get back into writing lyrics, but I'm finding it difficult because I haven't done it in such a long time. So I still think that if you want to keep your narrative voice, that is perfectly okay to keep writing in that style and maybe use that style every now and then, but just don't ever let your writing become something that you are comfortable with, that you find easy, but you still have to practice. If you don't practice, then you're gonna lose it. You're gonna lose it all. Everything is just gonna go out the window, and eventually you'll have one narrative voice that sounds exactly the same as a character voice you had in a previous book. That isn't a bad thing, but it can become a bit tiresome. Now, do feel free to ask me any questions in the comments, and feel free to discuss anything that I have mentioned in this video. Give me your thoughts on my tentative tying together of my driving and my writing, because I do it often. I hope you got something out of this video, for it is a rather long one. And until next time, that is all.